Bari Weiss is out at the New York Times. She is their opinion editor and also a writer, has resigned for a number of reasons, which she delves into in excruciating detail in a resignation letter that was delivered, as most resignation letters are. It was published on her website. So this was totally about an honest attempt to communicate to her employer why she was leaving, and not about future brand building or setting up some sort of media venture now that she's transitioned out of the New York Times. But that said, why don't we read a little bit of what Bari Weiss had to say? My own forays into wrongthink, which is a thing that she wrote, have made me the subject of constant bullying by colleagues who disagree with my views. There are terms for all of this: unlawful discrimination, hostile work environment, and constructive discharge. I'm no legal expert, but I know that this is wrong. I would go one further and say she's not a legal expert, but clearly she's been doing some Googling, because who else talks about constructive discharge, except if they're planning to sue the employer that they recently had. She also said, I was hired with the goal of bringing in voices that would not otherwise appear in your pages. Remember, this is ostensibly a resignation letter, so the "your" is the New York Times, even though this was published all over the internet. The paper's failure to anticipate the outcome of the 2016 election meant that it didn't have a firm grasp of the country it covers. Now, she said that because they supposedly didn't have centrists and conservatives. Well, I mean, Google if you want, but they overwhelmingly had at best centrists, if not conservatives, on those pages. Not liberals and certainly not progressives, certainly no one more left of that. So that is a complete ahistorical take on what the state of the New York Times was when they hired her, let alone what it is right now. There's more, but Cenk, what do you think about Bari Weiss leaving the New York Times?
So this is the perfect example of the right wing. So we start with hypocrisy. Her whole career was built on cancel culture. So she first got known as an undergraduate by trying to cancel her own professors. She went on a crusade to fire a couple of Arab and Muslim professors for having the wrong opinions about Israel. And not only did she do that, but she actually called them anti-Semitic and racist. Okay, now, Columbia wound up, because of enormous pressure, right-wing media, and honestly some donors and alumni from Columbia. They wound up doing a giant investigation of these professors to see if they should be fired, i.e. canceled. Bari Weiss led that movement, okay? And she was the public face of it. And Columbia concluded that there was absolutely no evidence that the professors were anti-Semitic. And in fact, it seemed that they were the victims of a harassment campaign led by people like Bari Weiss, okay? So, and Columbia had every incentive to rule in the other direction, because they were getting a lot of pressure from alumni and donors. So now she starts her career that way. She's known for trying to get people fired and calling them racist if they don't agree on policy issues. And in this case, they had the temerity to not agree with the right-wing government of Israel, which Weiss supports. Okay, so then you go to point number 2. She now turns around and says, oh my God, I'm the victim. I am the victim of cancel culture, which I started. Okay, so classic conservative crying. Snowflake that says, oh my God, I was criticized. Now, wait a minute. Cancel culture isn't about criticism. It's about trying to get somebody fired or do tangible damage to their careers, etc. If you want to shut down any criticism of you, that's anti-free speech. And I thought you said you were a big champion of free speech. Now she's saying, no one should be allowed to criticize me. Okay, well, then I guess you're an elitist who doesn't agree with free speech. Third thing is, John, of course she's gathering up a lawsuit here. And so it's gonna be perfect for her. She's gonna play the victim card, and right now a lot of the press is going along with it. Poor Bari Weiss. Did you know she was criticized for her opinion? I mean, get a load of the privilege here. She says she can't get her voice out. She's a columnist for the New York Times.
Yep.
And gets other people to write articles at the New York Times. You literally cannot have a louder voice. She quits on her own. She's not fired. She quits on her own and says, now I guarantee you once the lawsuit's filed, and obviously she referenced it for that purpose, she'll now say, I should now be paid for doing nothing. Well, that's also conservative 101.
Exactly. Yeah, I have a point to make, but to make it, I have to read one more excerpt from her resignation letter. She said, a new consensus has emerged in the press, but perhaps especially at this paper, that truth isn't a process of collective discovery, but an orthodoxy already known to an enlightened few whose job it is to inform everyone else. So look, the reason that I like that sentence in particular is that that sort of idea runs through the entire thing. That what she is involved in is the search for truth. And this process of collective discovery and all this. I would like to remind people, she works in editorials and op-eds. She's not a reporter. She's not doing in-depth investigations. She's not a documentarian. She is at best tangentially within sight of the search for truth. And I say this as a person who writes op-eds. My op-eds are not about the search for truth, and they're not the same thing as original reporting. We should understand that these are different things. But it is so perfect that she elevates what she does, and finding right-wingers to write editorials denying climate change and things like that. She thinks that that is at least on the level of original reporting, if not superior. And it is consistent with the whole crop of up-and-coming conservatives that think that pointless bickering and debating between pundits is the most important aspiration that the news should work towards. It's all nonsense. Like what is she known for? Articles about the intellectual dark web and stuff like that, treating people like Dave Rubin as if they're serious intellectuals. That is the intellectual rigor that she is investigating the world with. Though I get that, I guess I care about this because I'm mad, but I don't want to, because literally no one should care about Bari Weiss. To a regular person, why would anyone care about any of this? How less important to a real working class American could the thoughts or opinions or resignations of Bari Weiss be? I can't think of anything less important. We were talking about how you said we should never overestimate how much people know about politics, that people are just trying to get by and they can't follow everything. Okay, well, there's a lot that they're gonna follow before they get to whether some person feels maligned by bullying at her work, and so she leaves to probably start her own media outlet. The whole thing is so stupid and pointless and perfectly emblematic of this new strain of online conservatives.
Yeah, all right, so that actually brings us to cancel culture, actual cancel culture. Look, I think I can speak with some authority, having been canceled by the right wing, the left wing, and the middle wing. Okay,
that's the torso.
Yeah, and in my case, at least 2 of the instances were trying to get me kicked out of a group that I co-founded and trying to end my political campaign. So it was not about disagreeing with me. It was trying to literally get me to stop working or with folks and for a certain position, right? And in fact, a lot of the Democratic establishment would say that Cenk is not allowed to run in this race. We have disqualified him, even though there's no such thing in politics, right? So it was literally the epitome of cancel culture. So I hate cancel culture. I believe in what she claims she stands for. And in fact, I agree with the letter that she co-signed that ran on Harper's Magazine. And I will defend that letter, even though Bari Weiss was one of the people who signed it. And as you can tell, not a big fan of hers, right? Why? Because I actually believe in an exchange of ideas. And I know we have tribes now. You're either on this side or that side. No, I'm on the side of exchanging ideas. And I could say I agree with that idea or that letter from Bari Weiss, while telling you what a giant hypocrite she is and how I disagree with her on other ideas. And what she has done is she started cancel culture, then she co-opted it and weaponized it for her own benefit. And John's absolutely right. So I talked about how she had this perch at the New York Times that is literally one of the most privileged positions you could have in media. And a lot of this cancel culture isn't about helping people. Nobody's talking about whether people should have health care. They're not even talking about really uprooting systemic racism in police departments, which is theoretically how this latest wave started. No, they're talking about which of the elites should have the best job in media. Oh, please. spare me your cancel culture crap. It doesn't affect the rest of our lives. And you guys are having a food fight over, well, I do declare, should Bari Weiss make $1 million or should I make $1 million, right? It doesn't affect anybody else's life other than the fact that you guys are unbearable. And what is Bari Weiss gonna move on to next? I guarantee you it's a media venture backed by right-wing billionaires.
Yep.
And I forget who made this point. It might, it was somebody on Twitter. And I'm sorry, I don't remember their name, but they made a great point. And they said, look, these kind of right wingers will have jobs forever. So her saying, I'm gonna get rid of the most coveted job at the New York Times is easy to do because she knows a right-wing billionaire is going to give her millions of dollars to do her next venture. They have permanent job security. Why? Ironically, it's socialism for right-wing propaganda. They never have to compete in the free marketplace of ideas. They never have to actually open real businesses that have to earn revenue and have to create income and profit because they just get money handed to them. Prager University gets $21 to $23 million every single year just for free so they could do right-wing propaganda. So Bari Weiss will board that gravy train. And John, people in all those media outlets that goes to hundreds of millions of people will write about the victim, Bari Weiss, and how she was martyred on behalf of free speech when she was the one person fighting for an exchange of ideas. And that's what happened in this load of crap that is Bari Weiss's resignation.
Yep.
And you can't be canceled if you quit.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.